James Cameron's Avatar is a movie that I don't see talked about as often as I should.
Why don't you enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea?
Ranger Rick.
I don't need any calming tea! I need to capture the Avatar!
For a film that made more than $2 billion and eventually became the highest grossing movie of all time, its cultural impact is strangely minimal. How do I measure cultural impact? By the quality and quantity of one's memes. Look at the memes from Endgame. There are thousands of them, and they are hilarious. I tried to find some for James Cameron's Avatar, almost none. And it's not like memes weren't around in 2009 and 2010. Why is that? In this video, I'm going to answer this question. I want to analyze it a little bit, but mostly give my thoughts on Avatar's plot, visuals, themes, and context surrounding it. But let's get this review started.
I want to be home for dinner.
When this movie came out, everyone who could afford to see it saw it, which is no surprise given the immense levels of hype around it in 2009. Avatar was the baby of legendary filmmaker James Cameron, who made movie history with his previous film, The Titanic, the first film to earn $1 billion at the box office. After The Titanic became the highest grossing movie of all time, James Cameron would have to do something different if he wanted to surpass what many would have argued is his magnum opus, his greatest achievement. He would need to up the ante of spectacle, and he would not be able to spare any expense. He would need technology to progress so he could achieve his vision. It would be expensive, but he knew that. He wanted Avatar's release to be a cinematic event that could only be experienced properly in theaters. Movie theaters even had their 3D capabilities upgraded in preparation for when this movie would hit, like a wave crashing into Florida. And sure enough, it did. And not only did it did like a tsunami, heralding the arrival of the next great science fiction franchise. Avatar battered the movie theater game for more than just a week. Most films are considered to be healthy if they manage anything less than a 50% drop from their first weekend to their second. Dipping just 11% from the first to the third is unheard of. It sustained strong ticket sales well after most films would have petered out.
It's unreal.
The subscribe button to this channel is totally real though, the pressing of which will make Ranger Rick take 2 doses of Filmron's crazy pills. The plot. Our protagonist is named Jake Sully. He's your average military man wanting to make a difference, but unfortunately he's been Charles Xaviered. He pulls a chair out from under a guy and starts wailing on him. You know, the beginning of this movie is a lot more wild than I remember. Speaking of which, I saw Avatar in theaters when I was around 12 or 13 with my family. Jake Sully gets called in to pilot the Avatar created for his twin brother because they have the same genome. The Avatars are shells that can be controlled remotely like a puppet.
Puppet!
They're used to interact with the natives, one of the reasons being that the air in our setting Pandora is toxic to humans. Upon landing on Pandora, the movie just feels hype. In 2009, it felt like a 3-hour RTS Command & Conquer StarCraft Warhammer cutscene. It's pure hype, but why do the test tube alien bodies come with pre-braided hair? Oh wait, all the natives have braided hair. I guess so they, the Na'vi, can have maximum Native Americanness. It was a good idea to cast Sigourney Weaver in this. Her prominent presence gives this movie an added layer of legitimacy due to her roles in the Alien franchise. It's not necessary, but welcome.
This is such bullshit!
Now, if only she wasn't so annoying in the first 35 minutes of this movie.
Who's got my goddamn cigarette?
She's a scientist and a researcher studying the natives of Pandora, but research isn't the primary mission of the RDA's operation as a whole. The RDA is on Pandora to mine unobtainium, a frighteningly on-the-nose name for a plot device. Let's call unobtainium space gold.
Gold.
Because that's what it is. The main tribe of the Na'vi live on a giant mound of space gold,
The gold.
and the humans want it. Jake starts to run away using his new legs as soon as he gets the chance. This is an obvious thing that these geniuses should have expected to happen, especially since they neglected to give him basic education about anything to do with Pandora or the Na'vi, or how anything on this planet works. Makes for decent storytelling, but really does not make sense. At least they use slow motion at the right time, so we the audience can cleanly see the action. Slow motion was hard to do in the 2000s. People were still coming down from their Matrix high. I stand corrected about using slow motion at the right time. This was unnecessary, movie. Just don't do it again and I won't dock you. Look at this shot here. I feel like there's something in the frame that I should be paying attention to. Like they're trying to implant something in the viewer's mind. I'm sure it's nothing. Jake Sully gets rescued and brought back to the chief, and they allow him to live among them so he can be studied. The clan of Na'vi, called the Omaticaya, make Natiri, the girl who found him struggling in the woods, his caretaker. The swatting at these jellyfish is kinda funny but dumb. They're obviously harmless. Come on, Mr. Jake Sully. This movie's visuals are so stunning, it's insane. Even here at the tail end of 2022. Really, no expenses were spared. Well, actually, these alien horses have the same cry as the raptors from Jurassic Park, so there. The sound effect department should be ashamed of themselves. But I will take this time to talk about the uncanny valley effect, and whether or not I feel it in this movie. And the answer is, I don't. Even though it's a common criticism I've seen, I just don't feel it.
Find out what the blue monkeys want.
Of course the racist is here. I would love to say that there is no way that these types of comically evil people would exist, and there is no way that they would allow someone like this to run the show and have any sort of authority, but then I, a melanated man, snap back to reality and realize that these kinds of bastards are all over the place in the real world. Also, this character's comical evil is entertaining. He is the personification of the disconnect a person in charge can have when commanding someone else to kill. You take a mortal man and you put him in charge, and you see what happens.
Easy boy.
Ale is female.
Jake Sully is getting cancelled. It's 2154 current year. You can't make that kind of mistake, bro. Even though the plot of this movie is cliche, I'll explore why later on. The concept of a straight reverse alien invasion is such a fun idea in science fiction. And so is the Halo. The ability to physically link up with other creatures and the planet using an Ethernet cable in your braid.
Naughty.
Wait a minute, play that again so I can listen closely.
Naughty.
Okay, there is seriously something going on with this movie. I'm just gonna ignore it though. I'm sure it's unintentional. Anyway, look at these graphics. Let me emphasize that. Look at these graphics. It's not just the CGI in this movie that's great. It's also the cinematography. I love wide shots like this. When people say this movie should be enjoyed on the largest screen possible, they are
correct.
The sense of scale, the wonder, the majesty. It's all there in this movie. This movie even has alien dragons. They look so cool. It's like How to Train Your Dragon with PS5 graphics. They do a classic Native American buffalo run, and a guy named Sute shoots one of them with an arrow. Wow.
Everything is backwards now.
James Cameron knows when it's appropriate to inject narration. Unsurprising given his feats as a director. Narration is best used to give insight on a character's inner thoughts that can't easily be discerned from acting alone. But there must be imagery to go along with it, to enhance the emotion felt through words. Emotion. The only emotion Colonel Miles feels is rage. The Colonel has a hard-on for battle, and I love it.
Rick.
Make no mistake, he's my favorite character. He doesn't want the Na'vi to relocate. He doesn't want peace. Later, we see Neytiri take Jake to a forest where the Na'vi can connect their Ethernet cables to hear the voices of their ancestors, a place for prayers to be heard and sometimes answered. It would be a shame if someone were to desecrate it by doing the nasty. You may choose a woman, she says, while only wearing twigs to cover up her CGI demonetizables. Oh no. Oh god, what's going on? No. 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 So you're telling me every time they plugged their hair into one of the animals, they were doing the naughty? Were they doing the naughty with that tree? What the hell? Is this some sort of fetish film? For furries? Well, that would explain the blue cat designs. The highest grossing movie of all time is a fetish film for furries. I have no words. I am defeated. Here is my resignation. All I can do now is blur it out every time they use their hair to link with something.
What the hell are you doing, Jake?
Yeah, good question. After that night of fun, Neytiri wakes up to the forest they're in, getting mowed down to provoke a response from the Na'vi. They know it's significant to the natives. Jake and Sigourney Weaver are rightfully pissed at the situation.
Shut your pie hole. Or what? Ranger Rick, you gonna shoot me?
They deliberate about attacking the home tree to gain control of the area. Parker of the RDA says, alright, let's pull the trigger, after fiddling with some space gold, suggesting his mind is clouded with the idea of making more profits. Again, these characters are comically evil, but some people are evil like this in real life. Man is the bastard. The Na'vi are just distant enough from humans for people to easily separate them in their minds and treat them like animals. This guy's stare is some good acting. He really sells his psychopathy and conflict between his humanity and lust for profit. This tree falling scene must have taken multiple fortunes to render in 2009. After it comes down, the movie feels very melodramatic for a while, and that's because it is, with the slow motion and everything. It's supposed to be a pivotal and emotional moment, and I get why, but it makes me roll my eyes more than anything. And these guys that help them near the end, their turn doesn't feel earned. She turned because It's Michelle Rodriguez and she liked the floating land and thought it was impressive? Well, yes, it is actually impressive. The Colonel Ranger Rick is so over the top, this movie would feel really dry without him.
Outcast. Alien.
As I said before, this movie is pretty cliche, but honestly it's really brilliant because it's not just a reverse alien invasion. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but the Body Snatchers are us humans wearing the skins of the Na'vi. One of the reasons people say we shouldn't try to contact alien species is because we are afraid they're going to do to humans what humans normally do to other humans when we meet a technologically inferior culture. Like when the Europeans arrived to the Americas or Australia. A lot of Europeans at the time saw the natives as subhuman and attempted to get rid of them. They were seen as just in the way. The cliche comes in with this movie when your typical European infiltrates the native culture and becomes a better native than the actual natives. I talked about this briefly in one of my previous videos. White guy from well-off population goes to exploit native population for resources. White guy sympathizes with natives and becomes a better native than the actual natives. White guy turns against his own people. For more information, see Fern Gully, Dances with Wolves, Lawrence of Arabia, Pocahontas, Avatar, etc. You see this concept pop up in science fiction because it's easy to understand and make resonate with a lot of people. For various reasons, of course. You can criticize it for being a white savior trope or identify with the native cause. I just think it's interesting the relationship science fiction has with westerns. How science fiction has all but replaced them, and how some science fiction stories are riffs on classics of the genre. It's not always about whether or not a movie is cliche that determines if it's good. It's not about the wokeness of it either. But holy shit, this movie looks good.
She is with A1 now.
Sometimes when I see a character die in other movies, I think to myself, this guy is with AY now. I'm not even joking, I do it all the time, but in a funny, mocking sort of way. The funny thing is that while rewatching this movie to make notes for this video, I'm just now realizing that this movie is where I got the phrase from. For some reason, the line stuck with me as a kid. These mechs dropping down and fighting are just awesome. I honestly have no commentary for this, it's making me coon. The melodramatic slow motion happens again and goes on for a bit too long. But the combat here is interesting because it shows the contrasting size between the humans and the Na'vi. I sometimes forget that they are 10 feet tall when they're on screen by themselves. AWA has heard you and all the animals attacking is pretty bullshit. But there is no way the Na'vi could have won their battle otherwise. After the RDA is defeated, the Na'vi force most of the humans to leave Pandora and go back to Earth where there is no more green. Conclusion. Avatar is a great movie and I'm tired of pretending it's not. And I'm tired of just ignoring it altogether. Its plot and themes are cliche, but the execution is so well done I have to give it a pass. It's a fun and engaging piece of science fiction. I think this movie is overlooked simply because its franchise hasn't really gotten off the ground yet. I think in the coming years it's going to get the respect it deserves. We need a big, long-term contender in the sphere of science fiction, and this movie is a solid foundation for one. Let me know what you think about Avatar with the blue people in the comments below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. Most importantly, share this video so it's not hard to find, like unobtainium. This planet is covered with water, so don't forget to drink some and stay hydrated. Have a good one.